What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And Bitcoin is pumping once again, breaking into our next target, sitting at about $91,000. Yesterday, we saw Bitcoin hit our target at 88K. We knew we had all those liquidities sitting above that level, and we are now seeing that squeeze to the upside that we've been expecting, and it is absolutely insane, guys. Liquidity acts as a magnet, and when you break into those liquidation levels, oftentimes you will get that big push up, and that is exactly what we're seeing right now. So after seeing 88K hit, we now have 91K hit. I want to talk about the next target we're looking at, and just maybe we could eventually see price push into our next levels. So I want to update you guys on the next targets, the key levels of support, and what could potentially happen as we tap up against this major important key level of resistance. And guys, this could be the level that, if flipped to support, could send Bitcoin absolutely flying. So I want to break down the charts for you guys and keep the CandleMafia updated on Bitcoin's next move. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. So guys, here we are on the Bitcoin chart, and as you can see, Bitcoin is getting another big move to the upside. Now, if you guys tuned into yesterday's update, you will know that we were looking at that 88K target within our volume profile, and as we were sitting above that value area low, flipping that POC to support, that was our next major target. We actually did see a little bit of a rejection from that value area high. We even got that little SFP when we first pushed into these liquidations, but I was being very careful with this trade, guys, because we know when you have such an intense amount of liquidity sitting on the chart, as you guys can see, there is a massive amount of liquidity sitting above here. So when we look for that swing failure pattern, guys, I was very careful, because oftentimes when you see a big level of liquidity like this, sometimes it can give you a little bit of an SFP. However, more often than not, these gigantic levels of liquidations do oftentimes give you a big squeeze to the upside as that liquidity acts as a magnet. We swept a little bit of that liquidity, got the move down, and then eventually that liquidity did act as a magnet, sucking price right through that level, giving us that big squeeze to the upside, where we had our next major target sitting at the macro value area low of our upper range, sitting right here at $91,000. And you guys can see we are peaking our head just above this level, and this is going to be a massive level that we must flip to support, guys. And as you guys know, when we're looking at things in terms of the volume profiles, if we could get accepted back into this range, guys, this is going to be the massive support that could potentially open the door to our next target, sitting up here at our macro golden pocket POC confluence, sitting between about $96,000 and $97,000. We also have a few different levels up here. We have some horizontal levels, we have some MPOCs, so there is a lot of confluence on this level, guys. But this has been the major target that we have been watching for quite some time, understanding that we did have the 88K target, which we did get turbulence, and you can see the magic of that liquidity, guys. As soon as we pop into those liquidations, we get that big push to the upside, and this is the beauty of understanding how liquidity behaves when you tap into those stop losses and liquidations. Once we tap in here, you expect that big push to the upside, and that is that short squeeze that we are seeing. But I will say, guys, we are tapping resistance, so we do have to be a little bit careful. But I will just say it is very nice to see Bitcoin finally interact with this level, and this is the famous doorway to higher prices. And just like we were looking at our current range down here, when you flip that value area low to support, you look for the POC to hold. Once that is done, you can look for that value area high. When we take a look at the higher time frames, this is a similar situation where we do have a deviation below that macro range with our macro bullish divergences here on the daily, as well as some of the higher daily time frames. We came to that key level of support, we put in those macro bullish divergences. That is the deviation below our value area, and as we know, price always seeks fair value. So once you break out of your current range, which was sitting down here, and we are starting to see that break, if we could continue to break out here, guys, price is very naturally going to get gravitated towards this previous area of balance, flip that to support, and we might be able to get accepted in here, come up to that $96,000 to $97,000 level. And if we are able to break above that, we might even be able to see upwards of $100,000 to $103,000. Now, speaking of liquidity, guys, I do just want to point out that just like we had a lot of liquidity sitting above 88K, the next major area of liquidity is sitting all the way up here at about $100,000. Now, this does not mean that we're just instantly going to Lambo candle into 100K, but I do just want to point out that when we look at these liquidation levels acting as magnets for price, we looked up here for quite some time, price got gravitated to that level. And now if we are able to work inside that range, guys, this giant chunk of liquidity is sitting at about $99,500. So again, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I would be looking at here if this bullish momentum can continue. And of course, if we can hold that value area low, we might eventually, in the medium term, be able to see pushes up into these next levels. So 88K, check it off the list. 91K, check it off the list. And the next major target is going to be 97K. Are we going to be on a market update here soon at 97K? Just checking off that third target. I hope so. And it would look like Bitcoin is looking for that to potentially be the case. However, guys, we can't get ahead of ourselves. You don't want to let that FOMO get into your head. Like I said, I don't think we're very likely to just Lambo candle into 97K. Hopefully that is the case, right? But we are approaching some local levels of resistance. So I do want to break down some of these levels we have sitting above us. And this is also very, very nice, guys, because as we have been looking at our macro trend line here on the daily time frame, we all know that dreaded massive downtrend here that we have been rejecting for quite some time. It's been hammering us down. And as we have broken above here, holding above 84K, this is a very nice sign that this might be the actual break of this trend line. And we are now starting to break market structure here, which would be very, very nice for a bigger continuation to the upside. And as we were looking at yesterday, we do have that money flow on the daily continuing to creep up towards that zero line, looking to cross over into the green. This is one of the massive things that we were looking at yesterday. If we could see that money flow continue into the green, we could potentially anticipate the larger trend to continue to the upside. That does not mean that it is going to be an instant pop. Very likely we could see some kind of resistance here, but as long as that money flow continues to cross over into the green, guys, we could still be looking for higher lows and higher highs to come as the money flow indicates the overall trend. And if this money flow crossover into the red back here did not prove that to you, giving us that continuation of the downtrend, hopefully this one, if we get the crossover, will give you the trust in the money flow because it is absolutely undefeated. So at this point, that money flow is continuing to curve up in a bullish manner. So that is exactly what we wanted to see as we tap into these local key levels of resistance. Even if we get a pullback, guys, if this money flow continues into the green, we can potentially look for higher lows and higher highs, which would be very, very nice to see. So at this point, I am going to be a little bit more conservative with the shorts and a little bit more greedy with the longs until we see that money flow get a little bit more ugly. But right now, guys, things are looking like they are headed in the right direction. We also had our 16-hour money flow coming into the green, which was one of those early warning signs that makes us think, well, hey, the 16-hour money flow is crossing into the green. The 12-hour money flow is crossing into the green. Last week, we had the bullish market cipher B116 setup with the 10-hour money flow crossover into the green while that weekly green dot was printing. And that was another thing giving us that anticipation of the continuation of the trend. And once that 16-hour money flow crossed into the green, that's kind of what makes us say, well, hey, maybe that's going to leak over into the daily. And that would be a very, very good sign for Bitcoin over the long term. And as we know, our longer term plan here, guys, ever since we came down here and put in these macro bullish divergences, was that we could potentially see that continuation up, see that trend line break, and see a much larger retracement into our macro fib levels, which again, sit up here at about 96 to $103,000. So this is the road to 97K, guys, and we are absolutely smashing those targets. But right now, I want to go to the lower time frames and kind of talk about what we're seeing here because there are some other local levels that we're going to have to get above. It's not just the value area low. So let's go ahead and jump on down to those lower time frames and talk about those next key levels. Well, number one, guys, you can see here, the anchored VWAP from the all-time high here is sitting at about $91,783. Now, we also do have some daily naked points of controls up here, getting closer to about 92,500. Key level number one is going to be the value area low slash 786 retracement. And again, I'm going to take this liquidation level off the chart just so we can clean things up a bit. I'm going to get rid of this resistance, right? So once we break out of this range, guys, remember, price range is 80% of the time. So once you wind up bing-bonging around in a range and you break out of that range, very likely, price is very likely to go seek out previous value. And that is hopefully what we're going to see here. We kind of impulse out of here. Even if we get a little bit of a pullback, we're going to be looking for those higher lows. If price does leave this range, we are eventually going to seek out the previous fair value, which does sit simply right up here. Simple auction market theory, guys. Price is always seeking fair value. And that is why we see a lot more ranges than we do these impulses, right? About 80% of the time, price is ranging, and then the rest of it is impulsing or trending price action. So very, very nice to see here. But level number one, we are tapping right now. I'll take that current range off the chart, right? Value area low, anchored VWAP sitting right up here. And we also obviously have that 786 that we were looking at. So this is kind of a zone. I would probably mark this out closer to about 91,677 all the way down to the 786 at about 90,500. So, if we wind up kind of rejecting that 786, closing significant candles underneath that 786, it might kind of start that little bit of a retracement. And I will talk about some of those local levels that I'm watching for potential higher lows to come. This is the first local level of resistance, guys, but I will say I am a little bit more interested here. I will potentially take some shorts at this level, but I will say, guys, 92,500 at this first daily naked point of control is going to be a very, very big level. So this is somewhat of a zone. We're just going to have to wait to see what price action does here. If it gives us those confirmations, we will go ahead and take some trades. But check it off the list here, 786 all the way up to that anchored VWAP between 90,600 and about 91,800. But I will say I am going to be pretty patient here waiting for those confirmations because it is possible to push up towards that $92,500 daily naked point of control. And again, we have one just above that, so that is going to be a little bit of a zone as well. So, remember, when you come up to these value area lows, guys, it is very often resistance until proven otherwise. And you can even see it like back here if we come on down to a lower time frame, right? Price comes up, oh my God, we're back in the range, and then you reject the POC. But what happens, right? You get that higher low, and then eventually you do get accepted into your range for the full rotation up to that value area high. And you can even see here on the 5-hour time frame, we did see money flow coming up there. That's kind of what we're using to identify what the trend is going to do. We are going to be using the daily time frame, but you could see, right? We come up in here. It's not an instant acceptance, right? You reject the POC, higher low, money flow is trending up. That is where you're looking for the continuation into your range. So it's the same thing with this upper profile here, guys. We could get a little rejection here. However, even if we get some pullbacks here, we could look for that higher low and then eventually get accepted in. So don't let the FOMO get you. Even if we do continue to push up here, guys, try not to let that FOMO get into your brains because we are hitting resistance here, obviously. So you have to be careful. That price does ebb and flow. It does not just go up in a straight line or down in a straight line. So these are the next key levels of resistance, guys. In my own personal opinion, I would even say, this daily naked point of control, like kind of this whole zone, right? Value area low all the way into that daily naked point of control, sitting at about 90,600 all the way into about 92,500. So we'll see what happens. We'll let that price action develop. We'll see if we get that rejection from the value area low to get that little pullback. And if we do get a pullback here, guys, we have two daily naked points of controls that I'm watching. We have one sitting at about $84,457, and then we have another one down here at about $82,657. This is actually a level we've been looking at in the Discord for quite some time. So we'll see, right? If we get the bigger retracement, maybe we could come down and retest some of these levels for a higher low and a higher high to continue that overall larger move to the upside. But right now, we're going to enjoy that pump and enjoy the fact that we have finally come up and have finally come in to tap that next target we've been watching forever. And it seems that Bitcoin is following along our plan perfectly. And that is the beauty of understanding how these volume profiles work. Again, pairing that with the money flow, pairing that with the high time frame bull divs down here at the low, it still does look good. My sentiment remains the same. These high time frame bull divs do look good for a potential bigger retracement. And this is a beautiful, beautiful start to the journey, breaking above these highs, potentially leaving our range and looking to get accepted at some higher prices. So hopefully we can see 97K soon, guys. I don't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to get that out there for the Mafia. We were looking at 88K last week. We hit that yesterday. And then yesterday we were looking up to 91 to 92K. And here we are sitting at around 91,500. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some kind of a pullback, but the next targets above are going to be 92,500 and then upwards of 96 to 97K. So we'll be looking for that money flow crossover into the green on the daily, guys. And hopefully we can get a little bit of a pullback to find some new long positions on a higher low. But those are the next targets I'm looking at to the upside. And hopefully we are soon coming to you live from the Frankie Candle studio reporting on a $97,000 Bitcoin. So guys, with all that being said, that's all the time I got for today's video. Like I said, I wanted to try to keep this one a little bit shorter, but let me know in the comments, do you think we're going to 97K or do you think we're going to get this harsh rejection from the value area low? And are we going down to $70,000? But guys, I'll see you later on the live stream at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you enjoyed the free content and these market updates, drop us a like on the video. It helps us out tremendously. And with all that being said, that's all the time I got for this video. See you in the next one. Frankie Candles out.
At the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it